In the Gun, episode number 98 here of ITG. I don't really know. This is normally where I say something goofy just to kind of dip our toes into the shallow end. I tell you, I'm Wesley Euler. I've got the best teammates in the business, the runaway beer truck, Owen Schmidt, and the signal caller, Jed Drenning. You are in the Gun, and we have no recap to bring you here in this episode number 98 of ITG. The Mountaineers obviously coming off their bye week. But what we do have are heavy hearts, as one of our own, as he would have said, a WVU brother, Dale Wolfley, surprisingly passed away at 56 years young this past weekend. It's a tough one, gentlemen. We're going to, we'll do just a little intro here. We'll catch up with Big Daddy and really kind of deep dive into some Wolf memories on the other side. But we have heavy hearts here as we record this today as one of our own, and I think just one of the most unique, energetic, passionate Mountaineers you could ever meet in Dale Wolfley. Again, left us far too soon this past weekend. We do want to make sure before we get into any of this, his family has started a GoFundMe. You can find that on our social media accounts. You can also find that if you're watching in YouTube, right in the description of this video. As Jed, we know this is one of those moments, man. One of the things that we all love so much about being Mountaineers is how we all rally behind each other in the good times, obviously, and in the bad as well too. And this is one of those times where the Wolfley family needs all the support that they can get from Mountaineer Nation.
Yeah, we're gonna celebrate Wolf tonight. We're taping Monday night. This happened Saturday night in his sleep. I found out Sunday, as did the rest of you guys, and that we're all going to kind of unpack, our experience with Wolf, how we found this out, what he meant to so many different people. But the biggest thing we have a platform here, and there's never been a better time than right now to go to that link, go to that GoFundMe, and help the good people of the Wolfley family out. I mean, there's never been a better time. I put a tweet out because it felt weird if I didn't, to be honest with you, Sunday night. And the response to that tweet and probably every other post on social media about Wolf was absolutely beyond the pale, crazy with volume and engagement. And I might have even had in my Twitter post close to 1,000 engagements or likes, retweets, what do they call it now? Endless stream of comments, endless. Right before we jumped on here, I got another call from a former player, Tommy Robsock. That's why he called. I mean, heavy hearts for 24 hours now. Everybody's been having these conversations. We're all trying to lean on each other, make each other feel a little better. But we're going to get Big Daddy on here. We all know Wolf, and everybody has Wolf stories. Owen, you got plenty. Wes, we all do. But the biggest thing we wanted to do is please get on that GoFundMe and do the right thing. Do whatever you can. We know these are tough times. We know these are lean times, but it's times like now that you're really glad you live in West Virginia. I always say that there's nowhere in the country you'd rather have a flat tire because your neighbors help you out, right? Well, this is a pretty big flat tire. So let's help the Wolfley family out and do anything we possibly can. My wife and I already been talking about it. So that's kind of where we're at with it. It's going to be a tough one. We're going to labor through it, but we're going to try and make it fun because that's, Wolf sure wasn't anything.
That's what he would want for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, if you've spent more than 30 seconds around Dale, around any of the Wolfleys, I mean, they all have that larger than life kind of persona. They're guys that you want in your foxhole. Big O. I think, Jed said this in his tweet that I think calling somebody a great dad, a great father is perhaps the best compliment that you can pay to a man. I would agree with that. And Big O, I might say that the next biggest thing is, that's one of the guys you would want in your foxhole. And that's what I keep thinking about Dale as these days have dragged on here.
Yeah. I think going along with what Jed said, I don't think there was one time that I spoke with Wolf that he didn't mention his boys and just how darn proud he was of them. Like you said, I mean, he was a dang brother, man. I mean, you want to talk brother? I mean, I can remember every time we'd get together, big old bear hug, big embrace. He'd always call me Schmitty. And just, it would just start rolling from there. We'd be telling the jokes and then telling the good old days stories, all the war stories. And, he would always say, man, Schmitty, you could have played with us. You could have played with us, brother. You're one of us.
And that's one of the best compliments you can get, right?
Yep, absolutely. And like I said, just so proud of his boys. And he's going to be missed, man. He was such an advocate through his roles with WVU of getting alumni back together, and pushed really hard for that. Probably was the best one that since I've been around the program, of getting everybody together within the alumni tent. And it always felt super welcoming when he was in charge of that operation. So, now it just seems, and he's since had passed on and took other responsibilities and roles with the team, and then kind of ventured out on his own deal here with the WolfMan's Call here of recently. But I'd worked with him with Joe Zwiak, and really getting to know him and who he was. I mean, hell, I just seen him a couple weeks ago, and it just seems like it's just every time you see him, you never skip a beat. And all we ever do is talk about chum up good times. And man, it's so, because I have text changed with, guys I played in high school with, guys I played in college with, guys I played in the pros with. And the guys who are in the pros, we've all been embraced by Wolf and kind of got to be around him. And the biggest thing I think was, man, so unexpected, so early, so soon. Life is so short, and just so unexpected. So, it kind of really zaps you in. I mean, I gotta have a 4-year-old son. I can't imagine, what, I sent a brief text out to Stone and just let him know that I was there for him and stuff, whatever he needed. And I know he's going through a heap of stuff right now. But just to let them know that what's up, and he can reach out at any point in time to get a hold of me if he needs anything. But please, if I could just kind of reiterate on the GoFundMe stuff. Look, man, we understand times are tough and it is what it is. Any little bit helps, even just a small message to help with such a heavy loss. So all I can ever say, and I'm sure we'll get into it, is some good old stories with Wolf. But he was such an inspiration and such a, like you said, larger than life character. Yeah. He would literally bright up a room once he started going. So that it's unfortunate we lost a brother so early.
Hey Wes, I'm going to say, here's my suggestion: if is Big Daddy in the waiting room? I tried to text Skylar. I don't know if you can see that or not.
I'm not sure. I don't think so just yet.
Okay. What I was going to say, Skylar says yes. Let's no commercial break tonight. We don't need that.
Okay.
Let's go ahead and roll with Big Daddy.
Let's do it. Let's do it. Let's bring him in
here.
Tell
you what, that's the last thing Toothman and Fortis would want right now in the middle of a Wolf conversation. So JR sure wouldn't want it. Rick wouldn't want it. So let's go ahead and roll Big Daddy in here. And it would feel weird otherwise, right? Big Daddy, here we are.
Hey.
Yeah, here we are.
And this is once again normally where I try and say something funny, is a semi-awkward transition. Sean, I mean, buddy, like you can always tell when people really had an effect on those when they go and you see just the thoughts, the prayers, the memories, the emotions from all across the board. Dana Holgerson talked about Wolf in his press conference today. Randy Bauman, who is, probably the number one ranked, if you will, Pittsburgh radio host. His brother Charlie kicked for WVU when Wolf, he was talking about him on the DVE morning show in Pittsburgh. Mark Madden was talking about him in Pittsburgh today. So, I mean, from West Virginia up to Buffalo, where he's from, all the way out to Arizona, where Ron Wolfley is. Man, Dale had an impact on a lot of people's lives, and I know you are amongst those as well.
It's crazy. When everything started happening yesterday, we're getting texts that something might be coming out that they, nothing's confirmed yet, and everything starts happening. And then once it was confirmed, once everybody saw Hoppy's tweet, the text that I started getting from people that I haven't talked to in forever, that just started telling me Wolf stories. They just started, I did this, I did this, I did this, he did this for me. We did, like, it's absolutely incredible the reach that somebody like that has. And Wes, you're absolutely right. Like, not to be morbid, but when you think about your own passing, which we all have done, you want to be remembered. You want to be somebody who made an impact on people's lives. And if I have done anything in this world to do 1/10 of the way that Wolf will be remembered, then my God, have I done absolutely everything I could possibly do. Because I'm telling you, just the stories about, my first thought when it happened yesterday, aside from obviously being very sad and the tragedy that it was, my God, do you know the stories that we are going to start to get from people about Wolfley? Everybody in the known universe has 78 stories about Wolf that are PG, 317 that are PG-13, and maybe 5.6 million that are R-rated. And that was my first thought. Like, my God, you understand the stories that people are going to start just telling immediately? Because it helps us feel better, right? Obviously, it's cathartic, but also that's the guy's legacy. That's his memory. It's absolutely astounding.
And some of the stories, Big Daddy, might now come out because fear of reprisal when Wolf beat his ass.
Yes.
Now they'll move on and tell the stories, right?
Now there's a one-sided situation. Yeah.
That's a one-sided situation. But I've often said, when I think of Chris Gray, who a lot of people associate with 9/11, the darkest day in this nation's history, I can't associate Chris Gray with that. He's the funniest dude I've ever known in my life. Okay. Yeah. So on no way can I reconcile that in my mind, that he's part of that he was in Tower 2, because to me, there's an immortal aspect to Chris Gray. I'll always remember him the way I remember him. Well, with Wolf, the same kind of vibe hits you. It's like you just can't. Again, when I first started getting these texts, I was on a trip this weekend, family trip in Cleveland. We hit Cedar Point. On the way back, I was listening to the Steeler game. So I was listening to Craig. I was listening to Bill Hillgrove. And it wasn't until after that I started getting these texts. And much like you said, Big Daddy, it was weird. It was like, you get the text, but wait a minute, is this actually, do we know this? Or is this kind of, it had that. So for a fleeting couple minutes, you had this hope that, well, maybe it's not confirmed. Maybe this isn't true. Maybe this is just wrong somehow, some way. I don't know how, but it wasn't long before, I got the confirmation. And then it settles in that this is real. And I don't even see, I'm 53. I don't see Wolf as 56. I see Wolf as my age.
Yeah.
This guy's been in my life since 1990, right? I mean, we played together at WVU. That's when I first met him. He was a captain, okay? And he's always been the same kind of way that he is or was the other day on Saturday. And then also, I couldn't help but notice, first of all, he wanted to sleep, okay? Mm-hmm. So if you're going to go, that's the way to go. But not only that, but he was posting some stuff throughout the day on Saturday. It was a college football Saturday, but he still had time for the Sabres, and he was having a good day.
Yeah.
So he wanted to sleep, and he wanted to sleep at the end of a good day.
Yeah.
And that's what I keep falling back to. I was like, that's pretty fitting, I guess. And Charlie Fedorko, who came in with Wolf, Fedorko played with Wolf. He was a receiver on that team. Dear friends with him for 30 plus years. I've had multiple conversations in the last 24 hours with Chaz, and the same type of thing. What you said, Owen, Fedorko touched on too. People underestimate the level to which Wolf was the one to extend the olive branch to the former players, not just those that he played with, but those that preceded him, those that came after him. And he forged that bridge for those former players to once again feel welcome back. Yeah. And I'm telling you, I was talking to Julian Miller. I mean, the list just goes on. And the thing Jules was saying, he's like, look, just like you said, Owen, the text threads. He said, Jed, I can't even describe to you what everybody on that thread's feeling like.
Yeah.
And it's just, there's so many countless people that are sitting back there for one reason or one way or the other. And we're all going to get into our stories, but I think first we have to attach a relative meaning.
Yeah.
What this did. And I can't help but notice, again, I'm overwhelmed by the level of engagement of a simple tweet that I just felt compelled to say something. Okay. I've known him too long. I work with him too long to not say something. How can I position something that's entirely about Wolf? And the two things that come to mind, nobody loves Davey more than him. And he was a good dad, just like you talked about, Owen. He was constantly talking about his kids. He was constantly trying to find ways to go see one of them play or spend time with one of them. Mm-hmm. And that's the measure of a good dude right there is are you a good dad? Okay. So those are the two things that came to mind. But the comments, the endless stream of comments, I really don't know that Wolf appreciated how beloved he was. And I'm not the only one putting a tweet out. Every tweet or comment or post, I saw relative or similar engagement.
Yeah.
I mean, this has hit everybody in Mountaineer Nation in such a huge way. There's a Wolfley sized hole in Mountaineer Nation right now. That's what it is. And then these comments, holy cow, these comments. It's just, it truly is. I don't think, and again, we all knew him. I really don't think he knew the level to which he was beloved by Mountaineer fans.
Even if he did, Jed, even if he did, you know that he would brush it off.
Yeah.
So that's good. That's he would appreciate it, but it would not define him. It would not be a look how much people love me. Look how many people love who I am. Name a football player for WVU that's ever played here. And if they are on social media, they have posted something about it.
Yeah.
What does that say?
No doubt.
Name somebody that's not a football player that just is associated with WVU. They've posted something about him.
And across Cardinals fans, because they love Ronnie so much and they know what the Wolfley family from I mean, it's been nonstop from Steelers fans for the last 24 hours or so, because they all love Craig and they know how much. I mean, again, and that's kind of the beauty of, if you know Ronnie, but you didn't really spend much time around Craig and Dale, you know Craig and Dale.
Yeah.
If you spend a lot of time around Dale, but maybe not much around his older brothers, you know his older brothers, because they are all the same, larger than life, light up the room. Everybody they've ever met is their best friend. They've got time for everybody, huge hearts, and just a blast to talk football, to be around these type of settings with guys who are passionate about the game. That passion that Dale has for WVU, same way Craig is with the Steelers, same way Ronnie is with the Arizona Cardinals and with WVU as well too. And yeah, man, that's, I didn't know Dale as well as you guys did. I've been around him a few times and had met him and things like that, but I work with his brother Craig every day. I was with him on Sunday for 10 hours. I was with him today for, Craig still did his show this morning. And God bless him, but he said, he texted me and kind of the director of our station last night and said, guys, I'm coming to do the show tomorrow, because one, that's what Dale and that's what my father would want me to do. And two, I don't want to sit around and think about, my baby brother being gone. I would rather do the show and have something to distract me for the morning. And it's just one of those things that, again, if you've met one of the Wolfley brothers, you've met all the Wolfley brothers. And Jed, before we'll tell some stories here. Maybe we'll spin the block back to Owen. I know Big O's got a good story or anecdote or something to share with us. But this is what's been sticking with me for the last, I don't know, 28 hours or so. It's Monday night as we record this, 28 hours or so since Sunday afternoon when the news broke. Jed, you said it right there a minute ago. No one loved WVU more than Dale, right? And you've said that. Dan Zangrilli said that. I mean, I've seen that a dozen times in the last day. He's the ultimate Mountaineer. Nobody loved the Mountaineers more. Nobody loved WVU more. I can't remember if it was Stone or Mav. One of them posted a thing on Twitter and said the same thing. Like my dad loved the Mountaineers so much. That means a lot to me, because you guys will laugh at this. Jed, you're from West Virginia. Sean, you're from West Virginia. Big O, you're kind of more like me in the sense of, Dale wasn't a West Virginian born and raised.
Yeah.
And while I, in a way, am a little bit different, my mom's whole side of the family's from Doddridge County. I spent so much time in my childhood, every summer, every holiday in Doddridge County. Half of my family is from West Virginia. And they all bleed gold and blue, right? But they should. They're from West Virginia. They're West Virginians. They've been born and raised in it their entire lives. Selfishly for me, my mom's from West Virginia, born and raised Doddridge County, all my family. My parents met at WVU. My initials are WVU. You guys know the drill. For me, I always have a soft spot in my heart for people like me, for people like Dale, who, could have gone anywhere for school, could have felt about any alma mater, but maybe chose WVU. That's the best way to put it. And Dale even more so than me, right? Again, my initials are WVU. My mom's from there. My parents met at school there. I was kind of baptized in it, right? I mean, I guess I could have been like, screw you guys. I'm going to Ohio State or whatever. You know what I mean? But to me, and again, I don't know if there's any rhyme or reason for it, but that's just what I've been thinking about in the last, I love people like me who weren't necessarily born and raised in West Virginia. People like Big O, right, who weren't necessarily raised in West Virginia. Dale, a Buffalo guy, who just ends up embodying everything that it means. Dale was everything that it means to be a Mountaineer. Big O, everything that it means to be a Mountaineer. And as often as we do, rightfully so, there's not a program in the country that represents its state more than West Virginia. There's not a college football program that is associated more with its state than West Virginia is. And don't give me Alabama, because Auburn's won national championships and is a massive program as well, too. All these other states. But there's just something for me about it's Owen. It's why you're one of my favorite players of all time, and I would have told you that before we started doing this podcast. For guys who are outside of the 1.8 million that we talk about all the time, but become part of the 1.8 million, like I know Owen has, like I know Dale has, like I hope that I have. That's just always special to me, because, Jed, you pointed this out in our recap episode, right? How you and I were kind of talking about how this football team embodies West Virginia in the sense of bottom of the rankings, picked last, discounted, counted out, all these things. And you go out there and prove people wrong. For somebody to embrace that, for someone from the outside to look in at West Virginia and say, yeah, I want that. That's where I belong. That's my home. That always means a lot to me, because I see some of that in myself as well, too. And again, when you're a guy who is, the ultimate Mountaineer, no one loved WVU more, and you're from Buffalo, New York, that's pretty special to me.
No, absolutely, Wes. I think talking to Dale, if you didn't know that he wasn't from West Virginia,
you'd have no clue. You
would have no clue, because he's just that passionate about it. And I'm not going to tell any like crazy stories I've had with Wolf. They're in the R-rated and some of the PG-13s, but a PG story I'll tell about him. And nothing bad, you know what I mean? Just really good times. But the way I feel like I remember Dale the most is having these deep conversations with him about dealing with the football, at large, trying to build that bridge, so to speak, with all the alums and bringing everybody together, because West Virginia was just, when I went to and I'll jump here for a second. When I went to the NFL, like I was looking for West Virginia. I was looking for the Mountaineers in the pros. I was looking for that team, that camaraderie, that locker room that I got sort of close to it, but it was just never going to happen. It was a unicorn, you know what I'm saying? And I feel like when we would talk about getting guys back and what we can do to enhance the experience for not just the players, but the families as well, because people forget, yes, the players live the experience, but the friends and family, they're all there too for the ride, and they live it just as much as the players live it. and being able to come back to something that at one point in time you were such a big part of. And when you exit that, you kind of, you know, I'm not saying you get forgotten or left out. It's just the natural progression of things, because it has to move on. You only get, that's why it's so special. You only get a certain amount of time to be able to spend with those people, and you forge this, you know, immense, passionate, intense bond with one another. And he was always trying to build that amongst all the generations of players. And, you know, I've gotten a very unique opportunity to meet a lot of the guys that he's played with, a lot of the guys that are around those years. You know, I'll say, just as of recent, Brian Joswiak, Mike Collins, Aaron Beasley, guys like that, that starting to all bridge the gap together and get on board. I was with, you know, Jake the Snake, that whole group, you know, that whole group, that whole team, all those guys, like just building it back together, and how unique those experiences, you know, and listening to their stories. And but full circle here, talk with what I meant about Dale was, it was just crazy to see a guy who wasn't from West Virginia, who was so passionate about the program that he wanted all the brothers back. Yeah. All the family, you know what I mean? All the family to get back together, the gang back together, and spend those special moments and relive them, you know, on Saturdays during Mountaineer football games, and just to get that unique bond, because that's really, I feel like, what I miss the most truly about being away from West Virginia now as a whole, is just the unique experience that you lose once you leave, and you're just always kind of yearning for that. You know, it's just like going to a family dinner or a holiday, you know what I mean? It's just, it's fun to get back. And that's just something that I'll never forget about him, just having so much passion for wanting to get everyone back together, and just reliving our immense glory times that we all got to share and spend together.
Oh, and two of the people that reached out to me yesterday, one was a former intern of ours who then went on to GA under Wolf with the varsity club. So had all kinds of stories about the varsity club and getting to set things up with him. And another, I won't name her because I didn't ask her if she'd be okay with this or not, but was the woman who was his first GA that helped him start the varsity club. And I had no idea. And she told me that story about how she got injured and had to have a GA so she could stick around, and helped him start it in a bathroom closet at the Coliseum, and how they built it from the ground up. Yeah. So when you talk about passion projects, that's absolutely it. Since that he started it to make sure that guys like you and guys like Jaws and guys like Collins and Beasley and Kelchner and everybody else had somebody to reach out to, or would reach out to them, to connect everybody back together.
Yeah. He had a whole different life, guys, that's not often discussed. Big Daddy, you probably know about it.
Jed, get out of my head, because I was going to bring it up too. It's incredible.
It's the stories that he would tell about touring with Prince, touring with Michael Bolton,
Stevie Ray Vaughan.
He was security for these guys. He told me a story, which I'm not about to repeat, about Jessica Simpson. I think it was at the Missouri State Fair, something that happened to her. I'm not even going there, but I'm not about to repeat it. But wow. I mean, he just had, you talk about a fascinating dude. And you know what? We'll continue with this, but I think this is a bit apropos. Skylar, if you guys didn't see, just sent us a message that was posted from the family of Dale Wolfley. Not a bad idea to probably read this right here. So, from the family of Dale Wolfley, on a bi-week visit to his mother's home in Buffalo, New York, we learned early Sunday morning that our dad and Dale had passed away in his sleep. Over the last 24 hours, we've struggled to come to the realization that this has happened. He was a loving husband, father, brother, and friend. He was a fierce protector and a lover of life. A large presence with an even bigger heart. We would like to thank everyone who has reached out or shared a message of support of our family. All your messages have helped the healing process. He loved you, Mountaineer Nation, more than you could ever imagine. This state, this school, this football team was his passion, and he would have done anything for them. We all know that's true. He supported the Mountaineers unconditionally. It was his home and his brothers he was cheering for. Thank you to all his WVU colleagues and friends that he worked with over the years, whether it was from the tent, the booth, or whatever the job may have taken you, wherever the job may have taken you. To all of his supporters of his daily talk show, The WolfMan's Call, thank you for being every step of the way as he ventured out on his own in a new world, as he called it. Finally, to all his former teammates and players, he loved all of you with everything he had. He was always worried he didn't do enough for everyone. He hoped you guys had as much fun as he did. We truly hope you enjoyed the passion and energy he would bring with him every step of life. There is only one way he would want this message to end. So thank you from his wife Kathleen and his children, Stone Vaughn, Maverick Ranger, Jade Nas, Tally Rain, and Kyle Isaiah Ray. Boom.
Hard not to get emotional hearing that.
Huh.
Hard. A perfect, succinct explanation of who he was. And the line that sticks out to me is, he always worried he wasn't doing enough.
Right. Yeah.
The polar bear stuff, the children's hospital.
The guy, the drop of a hat. If you texted him, you're answered, and whatever you needed was taken care of. You're connected to the guy that can instantly.
And the bond that I can't imagine. I haven't spoken to Coach Nealon, but I can only imagine how beside himself he is. Matter of fact, Wolf always liked to say that part of the reason that he chose WVU was when their dad passed away. Coach Nealon and some of the staff members went to Orchard Park in support of Ronnie for the funeral. So
there is, I found it today. We obviously got some requests for potential footage, things like that. I found something on our server today that I just did not have the heart to watch, and I don't know that I will for quite a while. But in 1987, when Dale arrived on campus, the old MSN crew did a feature on all three Wolfley brothers.
I had a feeling that's where you were going.
And I saw it, and I just knew to send it. Just, that's what people are going to want to use for whatever footage requests they're going to do. At some point, I'm going to have to watch it.
Skylar, if you can't find the picture, just remind me and I'll send it to you. But now would be a good time. There's a picture of Dale at Mountaineer Field. All three of the brothers are in their full gear. Yep. Dale's taking a knee in his full WVU get up, and his two older brothers. Ronnie's got the Cardinal stuff on. Craig's got the Steelers stuff on, and they're standing there at Mountaineer Field. The three brothers. It's an all-time picture. I mean, it's an all-time. Not even more so when you consider that Craig went to Syracuse, and this was like in the heyday of the heyday of Syracuse and WVU, the Schwartzwelder Trophy and all that, right? And they still got him to come down to Mountaineer Field and shoot that promo, and that's how close those guys were as a family. That's how proud of their little brother that Craig and Ronnie were. And yeah, Sean, I saw the picture yesterday, and it was one of those stop me in my tracks moments. I don't even know if I've ever actually seen the full feature. So at some point I might have to, because I'm sure that's pretty stinking cool.
You mentioned Mark Madden, and obviously there's a Pittsburgh connection with all of that. But the connection, and I don't know that they ever worked together, but Wolf was a professional wrestler. I don't know if people know that too. He was a curtain jerker, but he was still a professional wrestler. So there's another reason why Mark Madden's going to want to talk about him till the end of it, is because he was there. He was in the profession. And
that's right.
If you didn't know, just take 3 seconds and think of your favorite Wolf clip from any of the shows he's been on, and then realize, oh yeah, he absolutely was a professional wrestler.
He had that person.
I was going to say, if you didn't know, you're hearing
you knew
say that, and you're thinking, well, of course he was, right?
Yeah,
he was. It's almost like, guys, I'm tempted to have Skylar play some AC/DC over that message that we read from his family. It's a bed of AC/DC underneath it.
I'll jump right in then, because the first thing that popped into my head. Okay. It's 2012. It's our first trip ever out to Stillwater, Oklahoma. Okay. I've never been before. I'm kind of excited to see. We stayed in Tulsa, and we take, it's either the Black Stallion or the Black Cimarron Parkway from Tulsa all the way to Stillwater. Okay. Kickoff is 3:30 Eastern, so 2:30 Central. But Danny Nealon, because it's our first time at that stadium, had us up and out the door at like 5 a.m. Central on the bus, so we can
hour
get
17, hour 15, hour 17 to get there, I think. Yeah.
Yes. So it is 5 a.m. I am sitting there, head against the window, going in and out. I look outside. The sun's starting to come up. There's a pack of coyotes that are just watching our bus go by. Okay. And my grandfather, when he was in the war, was in the Army, and he was with a lot of Texas and Oklahoma guys. So anytime I went out there, I always wanted to call him and give him some stories. So I'm like, okay, coyotes, I'm going to call Pap later and think of that. And as I'm going in and out of consciousness, I just keep hearing something, and I think I'm losing my mind. So I finally sit up at like 6 a.m. and it sounds like music. And so I start looking around like, what the hell is going on? Why do I hear, nobody's awake? How do I hear music? And as the sun starts coming through, you can start seeing things on the bus. Dale Wolfley is sitting straight as an arrow in the front seat, his hand on the back of the bus driver's seat, headphones in, and I can hear the tail end of Orion by Metallica. And I'm like, are his headphones that? And as soon as I think, are they that loud, I hear the opening strains of Seek and Destroy, as though Metallica was here putting on a concert in my front seat. I'm like, okay, there's Dale Wolfley, and we're game day ready at 6 a.m. halfway to Stillwater. Here we go.
There were times, Jeff Callahan and I talked about this. He's now the voice of Florida State. Well, in a past life, as he put it, he said, for a long time, Jed, you and me and Wolf were the three amigos, pregame, postgame. And that's very true. I remember one time we were at Maryland, whatever they called it back then. It's SecU Stadium now. The stadium changes names all the time. We were literally running up against it, and Wolf had to barrel through all these barricades, violate probably half a dozen campus traffic laws, and deposit me and Collie at the gate so we could sprint to the elevator and get up. Wolf was like 20 minutes into the show before he finally made it up. But we cut so many of those things close. But for those who haven't pieced this together by now, Wolf kind of sort of liked to have a good time. All right. And he liked to indulge in a few of the man beverages, as Owen might say. Right. There were times for some of these departures from the hotel, and it seemed in the early days of the Big 12, we had a rental car, and me and Collie and Wolf would often leave at 5 or 6 in the morning. And there were a couple times, guys, that because Wolf had such a good time the night before, well, the night before for him was probably 2.5 hours ago, right? We're leaving at 5 in the morning. I was convinced that if we, for some reason, get pulled over, all three of us are going through a field sobriety test here just because selling this car because of Wolfley in the back seat. I was like, holy, and all I had was coffee.
Fort Worth to Baylor, Jed. You remember that? We stayed downtown Fort Worth. We had to drive to Waco. We left early as can be, and Wolf just laid his head back and just tried to catch a couple on the drive.
I remember getting into what's the name of the place, Big Daddy? We always stay in the same facility when it's in Bethesda when we play Maryland.
Yes, the Pooks Hill Marriott over in Bethesda.
Thank you. Pooks Hill, thank you. That's what I was trying to think of. Well, we always stay at Pooks Hill, and I had my wife and boys with me one night, and we got there the night before the game. We got in late, and we hadn't eaten dinner, so we're just gonna eat down the restaurant in the hotel. So it's
boy, I know this one. I know this one.
Like 10 o'clock Friday night, and the next thing you know, I see Wolf over in the corner holding court with
running a full meeting.
15 boosters / fans, probably all of the above, former players, and I literally heard him. Like every 5 minutes, he was letting out with a WolfMan's howl. I mean, we're on the bottom floor of the hotel. They had to hear this on the 5th floor of the hotel, the Marriott, right?
Can confirm we did. Multiple players came over and go, is that Wolf? Yeah, Wolf's downstairs, guys. We're good. Don't worry.
And you know what else, Big Daddy? Later that night, that's when we found out Tunch died. And the next morning, it was a completely different Wolf that got on that bus because he was beside himself. He was shaking. He just got off the phone with Craig. Tunch Ilkin, of course, works for the Steelers, but so he was very upset about that. I remember he could pack it all in and get up and scream with the Eagles the next morning. Somehow, some way, he's just one of those old school souls that he packed so much into 56 years on this earth.
Oh man,
How did he? The wrestling stories, the touring with the rock band stories. Before you even get into walking out, the gate at Williams-Brice Stadium as a captain of the Mountaineer football team, it's just for a guy who had, in some respects, he had a tough life. He was dealt a tough hand. It's great to have resources as well established and as successful as your brothers, as Ronnie and Craig. But at the same time, you're always compared to your siblings, right? Yeah. So he always had to strive for that. You have both guys, both older brothers in the NFL, both older brothers with very established broadcasting careers. That's a tall ask. Yeah. And he just kept slugging, kept chugging away, kept punching. And just, like I said, a guy, a Renaissance man of sorts, with all these just fascinating, diverse backgrounds that didn't seem on one level to have anything to do with each other, but the closer you paid attention, the more interconnected it somehow made sense. Oh, well, okay, you did. Oh, yeah, okay. And I'm like, wait a minute, how did you end up at a head coach at junior college in Arizona? Well, my brother was there, and he tells you the story. Now it makes sense. But, wow.
Last one for me. And it's the one that popped into my head second after the Metallica story, because I tell everybody that one. When he would do the Wolf's Den with West Virginia Illustrated, now Gold Blue, the old Hall of Traditions at the back of the Pushkar Center. Yep. That's where we shot everything. Jed, that's where we did your Record Breakers feature that I did. Yep. We shot everything back there. And West Virginia Illustrated would use that as their set as well. They would set up tables. They were there for the whole day, in and out. We're all working together. Great. I walk back there with my gear on a Tuesday to get ready for the press conference and my playbook shoot and everything. I come around the corner and I come face to face with who I think is Dale Wolfley in a 2 sizes too small white rhinestone Elvis jumpsuit.
Oh boy.
And I bump into him and he doesn't say anything and just goes, "Hey brother, can you help me bobby pin the back of this?" And turns around and his entire back is just out. He had gone to rent an Elvis jumpsuit to do one of his bits for the Wolf Den.
Toys R Us.
They had given him a size or two too small, and he was just, the hell with it, I'm going to make it work. So here I am, camera and everything down, just trying to take safety pins and squeezing a suit
around a mountain of back meat.
And he's trying to suck it in, and he's moving his shoulder. "Whatever you need to do, brother, just tell me." Like, okay, well, just please stand still. Please, God, stay still. It stayed together for the shoot. But
Speaking of back meat, we had our broadcast summit. We have one every August. It's kind of our launch meeting, our prep work. We get together, it's the brain trust of MSN, as scary as that might sound, getting together and figuring out, hey, okay, we're going to change this, tweak that, do this, do that. Well, the one year we had at the facilities building, and that was the first year that Kegler's had established the WolfMan burger. Okay.
Oh, yeah.
So guess what we had at the broadcast summit by way of food?
WolfMan burgers, baby.
Wolfley had 12 WolfMan burgers delivered. All right.
Yeah. So 7,000, only 7,000 calories each.
Get that WolfMan burger. Try that WolfMan burger. And it reached a point. I was like, "Wolf, what's this called again? What's it called now?" "It's a WolfMan burger. It's a WolfMan burger." And the first thing I asked him, I was like, "It's a WolfMan burger. What the hell is lettuce doing on here?" That's the first thing I had to know. But
what's this green stuff?
What's this green stuff? Yeah.
Dude, you want to talk about a guy who could eat?
What's that, Owen?
You want to talk about a guy who could eat, man.
Oh my gosh.
He could eat. Runs in the family. On the road.
You talked about it, Jed. It was the world's biggest Mountaineer fan, great father. Every person I saw, their third thing about Wolf was the man could put down an ungodly amount of red meat.
Oh my gosh. Dude.
As someone who we've all witnessed it firsthand, it was haunting.
Like a bronze
God bless Whoopi, who is, his mom, Craig and Ronnie's mom.
Imagine that house, Wes.
Imagine that house.
With their dad too.
Three boys who all played D1 football. Like, imagine what those dudes were eating.
I've got one 3-year-old, one 3-year-old in me, and I get worried about our budget. I don't know how the hell she did it.
She must have just been slaughtering cows in the backyard.
They had their own farm. There's no other explanation.
I mean, there were times that in the pregame, he'd wear the headset, okay, and Wolf would get lathered up at the drop of a hat. I mean, if Wolf looks to his left, he lost 3 pounds sweating. I mean, that's just It took very little to get him drenched. All right. Well, what would end up happening was the same headset that Wolf had on for 3.5 hours for our pregame show. Tony then had to put on for the game broadcast.
Oh no!
So we had to rectify this. Okay, so Wolfley figures out, and there's pictures of this. Zan Grilly posted some pictures of this because I took them and sent them to Danny, and Danny posted them on his Twitter feed. Well, Wolfley started getting a towel and folding it, and holding it over his head, folding it down over his ears, and then clamping the headsets down around the towel. And I always told him, I said, Wolf, you look like some lady from the 1800s churning butter.
You look like you belong in George Washington's cabinet, son.
Yes. Yes. Come on, Martha. What are you doing here? It's, but yeah, he had fun with it. I mean, you look up pregame, you know what it's like, Wes. You're like 3 minutes before you go on air. Your last chance to relax all day. Well, don't relax around Wolf. Okay. You turn around, and the next thing you know, he's Facebook Live in the booth. You're like, dude, what are you doing?
Just breathe for a minute, man.
Just God, I didn't say anything stupid here.
He was just on just all the time. Just something to do, something to say, something to see. And again, those are the kind of people that you, like you said, Jed, you see, wow, 50. I mean, it seems like he just got, I mean, he squeezed that's always the one positive for me, for people like Wolf, when we lose them too early, is, you know what, though, he squeezed every ounce of life out of those 56 years that he possibly could. Never had a bad day.
There's a reason turtles live 100 years, right? Wolf's the opposite, whatever that might be.
Yeah.
I mean, it was nonstop. It was full time. It was high motor. There was no off switch. It was just go, 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 amped up, go, 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 amped up. And and the most well-connected guy, this is what I'd probably have to add that we haven't yet. Most people listening probably don't even know what a Rolodex is, but okay, his cell phone had an extensive contact list, I promise you. And I'll give you one example. We were on the secondary charter going to the bowl game. Big Daddy, you were probably already out there. You probably went with a team. Normally we go ahead with a team.
Yeah.
But there was a secondary charter out of Pittsburgh a few days later. Well, me and Wolf went on that one and took our families. Okay. And I remember we were on the tarmac because it was a TSA screwed up the crew or something happened in Cincinnati. We were on that tarmac in Pittsburgh for 8 hours. So we were supposed to get to Arizona, land in Phoenix at some decent hour, like 4 or 5 o'clock. We got there at 2:30 in the morning. So everything was closed. You couldn't eat. And we're wondering, how are we even going to make it from the airport to the hotel? Well, Wolf's working the phones. And the next thing you know, some former player knew this person, who knew that person. We had a fleet of service cars. And I to this day, I don't remember who it was. I drove home with some former player's wife and her kids. I drove back to the hotel. Me and my family were in her SUV loading things up. She's helping us load up. Wolf called and said he needed us. He did. Awesome. Every time he turned around, he was doing something like that.
That's awesome. Man. There was I think that's probably the biggest thing that I loved about him, was that he just never did quit. There was times at the Josue golf tournament, man, we never went to bed. We drank beers all night and then got up, and he never played. He just rode around in the golf cart, but I would try to play. It never really worked out for me because I felt like I was having a stroke out on the course. But I mean, and it would just be, it would, like, the stories, man. I mean, it was like you couldn't even believe some of them, because they were just so out there. And I'm like, I would have just loved to be a fly on the wall for about the span from when he played ball to like his 40s. Like, and it was pure rock and roll, dude. I mean, all the way.
4 lifetimes worth right there.
Yeah, like, literally, like zero sleep, just living 24/7. Like,
I promise you, there were a lot of flies on those walls too.
I'm sure.
Some red meat splattered its way up there.
And what's funny too is, again, I work with Craig, the oldest of the 3 Wolfley boys. Every day I produce his show. We're on, Steelers broadcast together, all that stuff. He thought it was so damn cool that Dale got to do that rock. The amount of times he would name drop, I got to meet Prince one time because my little brother Dale has worked security. Wes, your favorite guitar players ever is Stevie Ray Vaughan, right? I got to hang out with Stevie a couple times because my younger brother Dale was his security guy. Just a lifetime of memories.
Like when he launches into some of those stories, like, well, Prince is gone too, so maybe we're safe in saying this, but he was out in LA and Prince had whatever it was that Prince would have stayed in at the time on this lot. And Wolfley was always with Prince. And something happened where, I don't know if it was Prince's fiance, Prince's wife, whoever it was, made their way into town.
Yeah.
And it was a surprise stop in.
Wasn't
expecting it. And Prince had company. So now it was incumbent upon Wolf. He's like, wait, he's thrust into the middle of the situation, basically running interference for Prince. And he's like, that's not what I was hired to do. So, but he had to find it. And here, again, he's not just telling a Prince story like, yeah, I stood by the stage and he played Purple Rain one night. No. He's telling these crazy stories. Like, wait, what'd you say? What'd you say, Prince?
I had to get the mistress out of the back of the tour bus before the wife walked in the front door.
Yeah.
Believable, but unbelievable.
That was one I think he got tired of telling because everybody wanted to hear it. He'd always just go like, all right, so Brent, and he'd go right into it and just full bore, like, yep, you know how to tell it. You've told it.
I promise you, Big Daddy, everybody didn't want to hear the Jessica Simpson story.
Yeah.
Okay.
Oh, geez. When we cut this thing off here in a minute, we might have to hear that. We might have to hear the Jessica Simpson story. Last thing I got, and then I'll give you guys any chance to say final piece here and final thoughts on Dale. You guys will get a kick out of this. I know you guys know Tom Bradley, of course. For our listeners who don't, or maybe you're thinking, wait, I know, longtime defensive coordinator at Penn State. Coached at WVU for a couple years with the Steelers, couple years with UCLA as well too.
Coin toss for the Penn State game, was
he was at the coin toss for the Penn State WVU game. Absolutely, another one of those guys that if you've been around him for more than 5 minutes, he feels like a dear friend. He can light up a room. He's got stories for days, all that stuff. Well, a little over 2 years ago, Tom Bradley and Jay Paterno started a college football show with ESPN radio across Pennsylvania, right? Kind of syndicated, was run out of our Pittsburgh studios, but was syndicated across some ESPN radio stations throughout Pennsylvania. And it was a college football show, primarily Penn State, right? It was, 70% Penn State, 30% college football, Jay Paterno and Tom Bradley. Well, after doing that for a couple weeks, the two of them had this bright idea of like, you know what? We're in Pennsylvania. There's Pitt fans. There's WVU fans. Why don't we get a weekly Pitt correspondent who will come on the show for 10, 15 minutes and give us the latest on Pitt? Why don't we get a WVU correspondent who will come on the show for 10, 15 minutes and give us the latest on the Mountaineers as we kind of grow this thing and try and, be, listenable to a wider audience, all that stuff. So Tom Bradley at Steelers training camp 2 summers ago, he comes up to me at our little booth and everything, and he sits down and hey Wes, I'm doing this show with Jay Paterno, college football pigskin stew, I think was the name. We're syndicated on ESPN, and we're talking about adding a Pitt guy. We're talking about adding a WVU guy, and I said, I got the best WVU guy, Wes Euler. He's our guy. He's a big Mountaineer. He does this radio thing. He'll be great. And Scrap goes, would you be interested in doing this? He's like, there's a little money attached, not much. He's like, but it'll be literally it'll be a 15-minute, phone interview every week. That's it. And I said, yeah, Scrap, absolutely. I'm down. You give me the details. You let me know when we're starting. You let me know when you guys are recording, doing the show, all that stuff. Like, I'd love to make it work with you. Like a week later, I'm sitting there at training camp, same thing, at our Steelers radio tent booth, doing coverage and things like that for the day. And I see Bradley's like hovering by our table, and I'm like, what's going on here? So we go to break, right? And Bradley goes, hey Wes, can I talk to you for a minute? And I go over, and he like kind of puts his arm around me, and he goes, I'm really sorry, but we found somebody else for the pigskin stew. And I go, Scrap, it's all right, man. Like, he's like, I'm sorry. I asked you to do it 2 weeks ago, and I feel really bad, and I just, da 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 da. And I go, brother, it's fine. Like, it's all good. It's no worries. I go, who's doing it? And he goes, oh, Dale Wolfley's gonna do it with us. And I went, why don't you just say that from the get-go, right? I mean, if I'm going to get bumped for anybody, tell me it's Wolf and I'm fine. I get it. I completely get it. So that was how I almost did a show with Tom Bradley and Jay Paterno, but, I guess they had to go with the bigger name of Dale Wolfley.
You were sloppy first.
That's right. So that's my final thoughts as we close this thing out. Had to get that last one in to hopefully make you guys chuckle.
Big Daddy, what you got?
I think this is exactly what Wolf would want. Just a BS session, telling stories, chatting, and being a bunch of slaps. So I think I'd like to think we're doing him right in a way that he'd like it. And, I've seen a bunch of people say it. Tell your loved ones you loved them. And
Amen.
guys, I love you to pieces. I can't thank you enough for involving me in all this. I can't thank you enough for being a part of my life. It means a lot that I get to know each of you guys on a personal level. So I love you and thank you.
Love you too, dog.
You're right. I know, Jed, you said that to us in the group chat on Sunday when we were kind of talking about it. I think, times like this, right, that is one of the minuscule silver linings that you can pull, is it always kind of brings you back to the people in your life that you love. Make sure they know that you love them through your words, through your actions. And yeah, well said, Sean. Love you guys too.
And I don't think it's a coincidence that in that statement from his family, which was eloquent, beautifully written, perfectly worded, I don't think it's a coincidence that pretty sure they used the phrase fierce protector. Okay. So here's what I'm going to close with. If Wolf was here, I promise you, the one thing he would want to make certain of is his family is taken care of, because he's not here to do it. So he loved his family. He loved Mountaineer Nation. Mountaineer Nation, love him back. Now's your chance. Do what he would want done. And let's take care of his family and give them what they need in this tough, tough time. Love him back by helping them out. Go to that GoFundMe. Do whatever you can, please. And I'm sure it will be greatly appreciated by a fine family.
Absolutely. Like you said, Jed, just the best thing that we can all do right now is reach out to our loved ones, like you said, Sean, and just support in any way possible, whether it's just a hello or a handshake, a wave, a picture, if you can, a few shekels, anything is greatly appreciated, and hope you or myself would do the same.
Amen, gentlemen. Amen. A thank you. We didn't do any commercial breaks or any ad reads or anything like that in this episode. I don't think it would have felt right, but I do want to say a thank you to Bet Online, to Toothman Ford, and to Fordus for presenting this episode of ITG. As always, we want your Dale stories. That's the last part of this, right? On Twitter, in the YouTube comments, wherever. We know you got stories, and we would love to hear them. That'll do it for this edition of ITG. Hope you all enjoyed listening to this. Hope it was therapeutic for you in a way. I know it was for all of us. And once again, our thoughts, our prayers, our hearts with the Wolfley family, his wife, his kids, his brothers, his sisters, his mom, who is still with us as well too. As Jed mentioned, their father did pass away a few years ago, but his mom's still with us as well. So we will be wishing them all the best funeral viewings and funerals and that kind of stuff Wednesday, Thursday of this week up in Buffalo. So can't think of a better way to honor his memory than to go down to Houston and play with your hair on fire and leave it all out there on the field and do Wolf proud on Thursday, the same day that he will be laid to rest. So we'll be back with more of what you expect the rest of this week on ITG. We'll have our pick'em, we'll have our Cougs preview, all that good stuff. But I thought this at least lined up well in the sense of nothing to recap today except for the life of a Mountaineer, of one of our own, who in a lot of ways was larger than life. For our handsome tubby man of gold, Sean Mariner, the signal caller, Jed Drenning, and the runaway beer truck, Owen Schmidt. Our producer, Skylar, as well, too, putting it all together for us, as always. Take care, everybody. Love on each other, and don't waste an opportunity to let those in your life know that you care about them, that you love them. Be an ear and tell an ear about your new favorite WVU football podcast, and about any good memories that you have about our brother, our WVU brother, Dale Wolfley. You've been in the gun.